Hello, this is Liz. I'm going to show you some modifications that I've made to my Misti to make it a little bit easier to use, and at least for me and the type of things that I do. I like a tool that actually works the way I do. So first of all, you can't see this unless I put something white underneath it. But one of the things I do, and since I make the A2 cards, which are 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, I don't know if you can see this, but I actually took a Sharpie. It's red, it's kind of worn off, but on the outside I made a line at the 5 1/2 inch mark and the 4 1/4 inch mark across this grid on the outside. Now the outside is the one that's textured, on the inside it's smooth to pick up your stamps. Another thing that I did was I cut the black pad in half, so I have two pieces that are 6 1/2 by 4 1/4. And the reason I did this was because there's times when I want to use not only a rubber stamp, but I also want to use a photopolymer stamp. And the way the Misti works, you don't use the pad, the black pad, if you want to stamp with a rubber stamp, and you do if you want to stamp with a photopolymer. So another thing that I've done is I've actually taken, I'm going to use the Stampin' Up's Celebration So Very Much, the big thank you out of there. And I'm going to use the photopolymer set from the Celebration Avant Garden. Now, another thing I did was I took the My Sweet Petunia has a pad of paper, and I was using so much paper doing that I took one of the sheets and I cut off a 1/2 inch on the long side and a 1/2 inch on the short side, and then I laminated it. Well, before I laminated it, I drew a line at 4 1/4 inches. Now my 4 1/4 inches is not 4 1/4 from the edge of the paper, it's from the edge of my laminate. So that my laminate is exactly 8 1/2 inches wide. So when I stick it in here, there's not much slop left and right, and that 4 1/4 line lands right here at the 4 1/4. So because a lot of times I stamp cards with them open to get the inside verses, and then I want to stamp the outside or something like that. So I like to be able to see where that 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 rectangle is. So this is why I did this. Another reason I laminated it was because now I can stamp right on it and wipe it off, and I haven't ruined a piece of paper. Now let me show you. If I was stamping with a rubber stamp instead of photopolymer, this is kind of fun or kind of difficult to get this thing lined up exactly the way you want it. But now that I can see the front of my card, I can take this thank you stamp and I can put it about where I want on the front of my card. Now, I also took the magnets, and I have these badge magnets. They're actually, and I put some masking tape on them to hold, because it's just so much easier to grab them, and they don't, but they do slip together if you're not careful. But with two of those, they just seem to be easier to pick up once you put a masking tape over it. You could use washi tape, but I had masking tape. So once I have that on there and I pick up the stamp, and I'm going to stamp this with Dapper Denim just to see where that stamp is going to line up on my card front, because I want it to be straight. I want the words to be straight, and as you can see, it's tilted. So what's tilted is the it's going downhill. So what I really want to do, and since you can't see through these rubber stamps, they're a little more difficult to line up, so I know I have to tilt it this way. And now I'm just going to restamp a little bit right there on that same piece. Well, now I can't see what I did, but the nice thing about this is I can actually wipe it right off with a baby wipe, and I can, all I care right now is that I get it lined up straight. Now you can see it's a little bit better as far as the line that goes right straight across the word, and I'm happy about that, so that's the way I'm going to leave it. Now, once I clean this off and it dries, since this is a rubber stamp, I can also leave my pad under one side, and I could put a photopolymer stamp up here, one of the clear stamps. I'm not going to do that right now because what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp this thank you down here on a card front. So I'm going to put my card front on that side. Make sure that this doesn't hit. I'm going to put one down here in the corner so that doesn't come up. And ink the stamp. And of course you all know the greatest thing about the Misti is if that doesn't stamp nicely and I miss some spots, I go right back in and I can stamp it again and it hasn't moved. And there I got a nice image. Okay, now I'm going to take the stamp and I want to turn it. But what I want to do is I want to figure out where I want this photopolymer. So I really want the photopolymer to stamp and I'm going to put it on upside down right about there. Well, that's down about, from the 4 1/4 mark, it's down like 2.5 inches down at the bottom edge from here, okay? And it's in to about the 2 1/4 inch mark. And I don't mind it overlaying the letters at all. But instead of picking it up on that side, what I'm going to do is once I have my, I'm going to take my cardstock out and I'm going to stamp the thank you. Again, there's a little bit of ink left on there. And then I'm going to position this right about where I want it. And as you can see, I am about, okay, the edge of the stamp is about 2.5 inches in, if I look here. And the bottom of the stamp is down to the 7-inch mark right here, which is really from the 4 1/4, 2 3/4 inches. Now, if I take this card and I turn it this way over here and put it on this side, okay, I'm going to want to come down to, what did I say, 2 3/4 inches here with that stamp. I want it to come down 2 3/4 inches here and in 2.5 inches. So to do that and to figure out where that is, I have my little grid right here. It's already at 5.5 right here. Right here is the 5.5 inch mark right here. So I'm going to come down 2 inches over here, which these are 1/4 inch, right? All these little marks are 1/4 inch. So 4 makes up 1 inch, 2 inches, and 3/4 inches. So I'm going to move my magnet. So about, I want it down this far, but I want it in from the edge. What did I say? 2 inches, right? So that's close enough right there. Now, because I don't have the black pad under here, that's not going to pick that up. I'm going to slide that under there. And now, as you can see, I can pick up that photopolymer stamp. And now I'm going to, you can't really see what I'm going to do here because this is just a scrap piece of leftover stuff that I, after I laminated that sheet, I had some left over instead of cutting it off. So I'm going to put this up here because I really don't care about stamping up there. If I had a full card, like if I had a full card and I was just taking the front, stamping the front, and then turning the whole card around, I wouldn't want to stamp over top of the back side of the card. So I would cover it up with something like a piece of paper, or I just happen to have that left over. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick my card up in this side. I didn't use a full card for this demonstration just because. Okay, so put my magnets on and I'm just going to ink this side. This is more mustard. So there is that. But the nice thing about this is having this pad cut in half, I can use a rubber stamp on one side, a photopolymer on the other, and also having this thing laminated makes it nice because now I can just wipe it off to clean it. And it wipes right off. So I hope that helps, and enjoy using your Misti. Thank you.